Gossip Talk Shows, Find Your Own Voice, Lead from Within. With me today is Amanda Murray, Nick uh, Putinchka. I don't know how to pronounce your surname. Nick is very posh, and you're going to have to repeat it to our audience. And Grant Morrell. Please, Amanda, introduce yourself to our audience.
My name's Amanda. I am a teacher, an author, and an illustrator, and I help people find their own unique creative capacities within themselves. I'm coming to you from Canada today. It is bright and early here, and I'm excited to be here. Nick?
Hello. And you did very well, Nomza. Thank you. Yep, you nailed that last name. So I'm coming to you from Canada as well. I am a recently retired police officer of 17 years. I got to a point in my life where it became obvious that it wasn't something that was in alignment for me anymore. And so I made the difficult decision to resign, and I'm going all in on my own business, which is a fashion brand, coincidentally or not, called Flow State Designs. And just going all in on that, trying something new in life.
Fantastic. Thank you. And my name is Grant, and I come from London. That's London, England, not London, Ontario. And I'm an international speaker, coach, trainer, and actually just been voted Speaker of the Year. How about that? So that happened last week. I've been busy with conferences. Yes, thank you. Yeah, over the last 19 years, myself and my international team have helped thousands of individuals, entrepreneurs, companies, and organizations across 15 countries. We've helped them to increase their profits by up to 200% in just a few short months by working with their team, their systems, their mindset, and their strategy so that they can live a life of passion, purpose, and freedom and develop a business and an organization that can become a lifestyle. But I have a vision. I'm building a global movement to take 1 million leaders and help them live a life without limits by helping them to communicate their message with the world. That's me. Over to you, Nomsa.
Wow, congratulations, Grant. So proud of you. Congratulations. I don't know how you do
Thank
it
you.
though. I don't know
I
how
didn't
you
know,
do it.
and it came as a shock because I've been hosting someone speaking on another show, which is something else which I host. I was doing that, and then one of the delegates came off after and went back to a conference which I'd spoken at, and it was the awards ceremony. I couldn't be there because I was busy hosting another thing, and they said, "Congratulations, Speaker of the Year." And I thought, "What are you talking? I didn't even speak on this thing. I was hosting." But they was referring to the other conference where I spoke, and they found out before me that I was Speaker of the Year. I was speechless. I wasn't expecting it at all, but I was deeply, deeply honoured. But thank you.
That's when you know you deserve it the most, is that if you had no clue.
Yeah,
Hey,
I that made it really nice, Amanda. I really wasn't expecting it, and I was filled full of. I felt very humble and filled with gratitude. Really, really was. So it's a lovely thing, and I had to cut down my acceptance speech because it was too much. I thought, wow, I just couldn't believe it. And there were some great speakers there, some really great speakers. So thank you. Nomsa, over to
okay,
you.
so that's why you chose this topic, find your flow.
Yes, find your
Please
flow.
explain the
Absolutely.
topic to our audience because I thought
All
you
right.
give me a topic and then you came with this one and then now you're telling us you are like Speaker of the Year. So that's awesome. Please tell us, tell the audience why you chose the topic.
Thank you. Why I chose the topic, I'm sitting there thinking, what can help people the most, the quickest? And when I looked at all the years I've been coaching people and what I've seen, and it happens all the time, and it happened even yesterday with one of my VIP clients that I was coaching. Got his business, very qualified in what he does, doing very, very well, and he saw something else because he's got a slight problem in his business. Because here's the thing, every time your business grows, you break through, you get great, you get to the next level, then there's a new challenge, right? So challenges aren't an issue once you know how to deal with them. So he's broken through, he's gone to the next level, his business is a challenge, and he's seen another kind of business, and he's like, wow, it seems like people can really do well in that business. And I had to say to him, let me tell you something that one of the first mentors ever told me. I've told you the story about my elevator pitch and where I actually used my elevator pitch. By coincidence, it was in an elevator. And that's how I got my first mentor. I pitched him and got it. And I was saying to him at the time about the industry he was in, seems like there's a lot of money to be made there. Looks like it could really, I was really young, I was young and I thought, I could be making money. He said, Grant, you can make money at anything if you know how to do it. And I thought about it and I thought, well, he's right. Anything. He hasn't, don't think this is the shiny new thing, this is great. That's it. And I thought about it, and quite clearly, what he was brilliant at is something that I'm quite clearly not very good at. So for me to have broken through and been big into that industry would have been tough because I don't have a natural leaning towards it. I'm passionate with the outcome, not passionate with the work that's involved to get there with that industry. With the coaching industry, what I do, I'm passionate about all parts of it. So you know what? It's a good fit. And that's when I started thinking about it. Ever since, and with my client yesterday, one was saying, oh, shall I go into this industry? And I said, look, no, what lights you up? And he found out what lights him up. What makes, when I talk about his industry that he's in, he lights up and he's passionate. And I said, this will be the best industry for you. What you've been in for years, what you're doing, because you know it so well and you're great. Now, I'm not saying don't diversify. Yet, if you ever watch the TV program, if you ever watch like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or any of these, and you see the investors, they invest to the dragons or the sharks. And if you see it, they try and say, would you invest into my company for X amount of percentage? Sometimes they look at it and they will say, you know what, it looks like a good business, but it's not what my speciality is. I don't think I could bring a lot to your business. So for that reason, I'm out. Right? Or they just say, I know good money can be made at it, but I don't really understand that industry. It's not my wheelhouse. So, you might be better off with one of the others. This is what I'm talking about. They know where they make their money. They know where their value is highest. Because you make your money where your value is highest. Right? That's the thing. Making money is purely an end product of sharing your value. That's what it is. That's how you get it. So when you look at certain things, and I could talk for ages on the subject, but flow is the most amazing thing. If you look into the world of Japan, they, I believe, would call it chi. And I think Chinese would call it flow, right? They would talk about this in all kinds of parts of life. Martial arts, they talk about flow, and using energy with you rather than against you. Yet all I see in our lives is people struggling. As an NLP trainer, I'll hear people use the wrong language. I've got to go there tomorrow. Got to or choose to? It's a difference, a different energy. Do you want to go there? Or do you, oh, God, I've got to get it done. And sometimes it is something you just got to get done. That's fine. But people say got to all the time, which implies there's a resistance, right? You're struggling somewhere. That's the impression. You don't want to be working your life pushing against energy. You want to be working with energy with you. Or in other words, working within your flow states. So what I'm saying is there's certain things that you know that you could just light up and do. I've got a friend, he loves writing books. And Amanda loves writing, right? Love writing, it lights them up. I can do it. I've done it. Became an international best-selling author. But for me, that was not an easy task. It's not something I said, I really love that process. No, I wouldn't. I'm not planning on writing 20 books. Yet one of my friends is writing 20 books or has written 20 books. Loves it. That's his flow. You can make money. You can be successful. You can be fulfilled doing a great number of things in your life. So why choose to do something that's not in your flow? That's me. I wanted to form up the conversation. That's what it's about. That's the context. Who wants to jump in and add something to that? Don't all rush.
So Grant, yeah, I can add something there. So I was just doing a little research last night about this topic, and came across this quote from Norman Augustine, who was a former CEO of Lockheed Martin. So the quote goes, "I've always wanted to be successful. My definition of being successful is contributing something to the world and being happy while doing it. You have to enjoy what you are doing. You won't be very good if you don't. And secondly, you have to feel that you are contributing something worthwhile. If either of these ingredients are absent, there's probably some lack of meaning in your work." And so it really, it struck me personally, because I just went from a career where I definitely had a lack of those ingredients in my life. And I recognized that. It took me a couple decades, but I got to that point. And it makes total sense. And for me, I wasn't happy doing what I was doing. And I think that's because, and what was always interesting to me is that I was always really good at it, but I didn't like it. And so for me moving forward, it's really expanded, I guess, my potential, because I think if I could be good at something that I don't enjoy, imagine what I could do if I'm actually in alignment and actually doing something that I truly do enjoy. So that was something that really stuck out to me last night.
While you were talking,
I love that.
Go ahead.
I was just saying that I love that quote, and thanks for sharing that, Nick. That's brilliant. And I think, the CEO of Lockheed Martin, their name escapes me, but that is a fantastic quote. I think he's nailed it in that one. Obviously, he's spent a lot of the time at senior leadership, and he's understood what works and what doesn't. And an extremely successful company. It's great when you get those sound bites from people like that. So thanks for pulling that out of the bag. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Amanda.
It reminds me of when I was on vacation with friends one time, and we were with our kids, and they're like, "Oh, don't you just wish you could stay here forever? Like, what would you do if money wasn't an option and you could just stay here forever?" I'm like, I would still teach. I would still teach yoga. I would teach English as a second language. Like I would need something to do. And at that time I hadn't started writing children's books. And so I would and I think about it all the time. I'm like, I would still do things that involve teaching. Like I would teach art classes, or I would teach English as a second language, or I would teach writing classes. I want to start doing some creative writing classes, because everything I've ever done other than work at the grocery store essentially has been around teaching, because I would basically my very first job was the grocery store, but then I became a lifeguard very shortly after that, and then I taught swimming lessons, and then I worked at summer camps, and then everything I've ever done has always involved working with kids and teaching. And so I find my flow is really when I'm teaching. But I think teaching can look a lot different in different ways too. I don't think that teaching, if you love to teach, it doesn't have to be in the school system, in a school, in the institutionalized version of what education is. I think that we definitely can find new flows within the industry, because I'm like Nick right now, where I'm really struggling with the institutionalization of our school systems and some of the stuff that's going on in the education system in Canada. And so I really, really look at it as I love teaching. I absolutely love it. How can I still bring that love in a different way? And so that's something that I think that if you're loving something but not loving the space that you're in, then you need to change that space, right? And so for me, I'm starting to build my own courses, which I'm really excited about. And then I'm writing and I'm doing other things that I just know that I love to do. And I think that's something that you really need to ask yourself. If you are in a position of something where you're still loving it, but there's certain aspects of it that you don't love, what is it that you can change so that you're flowing more easily?
Great point. Yeah, because there are flows within industries, right? Absolutely, and I get that. There really are. Aviation is something which I love. I learned to fly in Canada years ago, and I remember distinctly my colleague was talking. He was fairly younger than me, so he was going to become an airline pilot and did. And in those days, they had changed. They said, well, if you want to work in the airlines now, not before, but then, get a degree in aviation. I said, yeah. I said, the reason is that if you've got a degree in aviation, if you become a pilot and your eyesight starts failing later on, rather than losing your career, they can perhaps make a transition from pilot to some management role or something like that. With it, so it's a different thing. Yet it still be within the industry, but you could be out of flow. Okay, you still have a career. Okay, so it would take that concern away, but would it necessarily be in your flow? You know what? Maybe it would. Maybe it wouldn't. And you can get flows in different areas. I mean, this is something which I never explored when I was younger. But if you want a diversity of this, and I never did it as a career, so I can't say if I would have been in my flow. But I was in a rock band, very, very much in a rock band when I was young, very, very much so. Right, that's all I did. But I remember distinctly saying, and this sounds weird, that if I wasn't in a rock band and I had to do something conventional, I think I'd become a dentist. Where's the comparison? I have no idea. But I used to say, yeah, I could see me being a dentist. Now, I've never studied medicine. So I may be talking nonsense. I may hate it if I got into it. But even now, when I look at dentists, I'm like, yeah, you know what? A different life, maybe. Yeah. So, yes, certain things in different industries could still do something for your flow, because the way you create what you do, the way I do in coaching, the way I do it, you have a certain kind of inquiring mind into things. My friend is a lawyer, and I went to see a lawyer about just some contractual thing a little while ago. And my friend said, "Oh, when you go and see the lawyer, you'll probably find it really, really boring." When I came back, I said, "It must have been really boring." I said, "Actually, I found it quite interesting." She said, "Yeah, you would though. You've got that kind of mind." I kind of get interested in those aspects, and that comes from music, that comes from coaching. And I think it would go into that. So you can get into your flow in different industries. So it can be, niches within niches, if you will. So it's more diverse than just finding, hey, I like creative, so I become an artist. That's a broad place to start. Forgive the pun, it's a broad stroke approach. And it is, and that's a good place to start. But as you niche it down, you might find that these things appear in other industries. Sometimes this becomes apparent when people have an accident, disabled, or something like, or just change, or they become a mother and they have to stay at home and they can't do what they did outside in the workspace. But what can they do from home? And they look for alternatives, and sometimes fall upon something that is also in their flow, something they never would have looked at had they been going out, traveling to work each day. So you can find it in different places. Nomsa, have you got any views on this, or flow, or have you ever felt out of flow when you're doing something?
I agree with you guys that basically you have to do so when you basically going with your flow. It means if you are doing something, you have to do something that you're good at, and something that you enjoy as well. Because if you are helping people, they need to basically experience from your heart that you're passionate about what you do, and you enjoy what you do. I love children. And when I was in Africa, I used to change children's lives. I just go and coach a child and make sure that uh, basically when I enter a child, I don't leave them the same. I leave them with a different mindset, basically. But when I came to the UK, I basically realized that in the United Kingdom, there's so many rules and regulations. Teachers basically, they have so much that they can do with the kids. Most of it is all rules and regulations. Everything is fine. It's like my daughter was telling me the other day that, oh, our teachers told us that we're going to this trip, which is if we are really, really good. So they're going to take us all in the class. So I got really excited. I was like, that's actually a good idea to go to Legoland with your teachers. That's amazing. So me, I'm getting excited. And then I'm reading a message on WhatsApp. One of the parents, they're going bonkers. Like, why would the teachers communicate with our children that they're going to take them to a trip? I was like, wow. And I was like, then I started evaluating things. I was like, that's what I don't like about this country. We have so much, so much. We are so blessed in a way that we don't appreciate our blessings. So it's like, if somebody tells my daughter that you work hard, and my daughter was working hard, she even got an award of the week just for working hard because she wants to go to the trip. And she was listening to her teachers and she's working hard. And I'm like, why would we tell the teachers off if they are really trying so hard? So I was like, I think it's because we have everything. If you go to other countries, they don't have what we have. So uh, is limited. So that's why I don't work with the children, because I don't like being sued by parents, because everyone seems to think they can sue you for anything. So I don't like, that's why I don't. But I love helping children. And instead of helping children, I use my talent for like helping people find their own voice, the lead from within. Because I asked my brother once, and I was like, "What do you think I'm good at?" And he was like, "Are you kidding me? You're already doing what you're good at." And I was like, he was like, "You have patience. You will sit there and listen to someone telling you everything, whatever, even some things are not relevant to whatever you're doing. You sit there." So I was like, yeah. So, and that's why I took a degree in psychology, because I love people. It's like if I have Amanda, Nick, and Grant, and you guys tell me the stories. I love listening to the stories, what people get up to. It helps me actually build my own life. If I look at Grant and I look at Amanda and I look at Nick and hearing your stories, like Nick was telling me that he's basically is moving to a new town, and he's gonna have to go and get some groceries. It will take him 1 hour to drive. I'm like, that's a challenge. So one day, if I get problems, I have to say, Nomsa, woman up. Just suck it up and get on with it. If Nick can drive for 1 hour, you can do it as well. So it does help me to build myself, because, and also, uh, basically finding your own flow. It means finding your peace within. Find a job that, or whether it's a job or whatever you're doing, a skill that will bring peace to you. For me, basically, when I come here, it gives me peace. Like yesterday, I was like, said to my daughter, I need to edit the videos. And instead of staying at home or being in the office, I said, let's go to the library where I can see people. And I was busy editing. And one of my friends from church, she comes and she goes, that is a whole lot of hard work. I don't think I can do it. I was like, if you love it, you can do it. If you love what you do, you will do it. Because I don't love the part of editing though, but I love the part of the processing, people choosing the topic, and having to basically empower people at Ngozi talk shows, and just listening to different people. Like Grant is a writer, Amanda, you're a writer, Nick, who is a policeman, and now he's going into branding. And it's so amazing. It's like I'm surrounded by these beautiful people. So I love what I do. So if you can find peace and concentrate on uh, and stay focused as well, like Grant, you were saying that people are struggling. For me, basically, I prefer to learn what I want to do than doing this. But Amanda, you have 3 degrees. I've only have one. I submitted my assignment 2 weeks ago, and I was like, this is not happening. I am not taking a degree, working, and I'm sure I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna forget the hard work that required. I remember when I was doing it, I was like, God, I love psychology, but if I have to sit here and collecting data and I have to work. And after I finished, I was so exhausted, but I was like, I thank God that I basically did it. It's when you love something, you will do it regardless of what. And you do it in peace as well. to find that peace within. Over to you, Amanda or Grant or Nick.
Hey, Nomza, so I was just, while you were talking there, I was just thinking of something that kind of came to me actually last night when I was looking at this, and it's that flow is basically where a challenging activity meets a high skill level. So where you're confident and have skills, and that meets something that actually challenges you and pushes you forward, that's where you get into flow. And it's something that I've been doing my entire life without giving it any conscious thought. And for me, it's more physical activities like skiing or riding dirt bikes or motorcycles or that sort of thing. And it was cool to actually put kind of a concept and sort of a definition behind that feeling that I've had my whole life. And sort of the opposite then is if you have, let's say, a low skill level and a challenging activity, that's going to bring you into anxiety. Whereas if you have high skill level and the challenge isn't high enough, then you're basically in relaxation because you're not being challenged. And so I just found it really interesting to look at how those necessary requirements basically to get you to that flow state. And that can be in your job, in your volunteer efforts, in your extracurricular stuff, like what you do as a hobby. And I just think it's super important to find those things for you, whether it ideally you can make money at doing the thing that gets you into flow. That's a best case scenario. But I think there's benefit to just finding a hobby that gets you into flow too. I think there's lasting, benefits for getting into that state. And I think it's beyond just a temporary kind of high. I think that carries forward into the rest of your day, even if that is going back to work or, working the next day, brings you kind of a sense of well-being, I feel like, or it definitely does for me anyways. Over to one of you guys.
That's a great add-on there, Nick, actually, to find a hobby that gets you in the flow. And I think that's very important. And I really endorse that because I may have mentioned before, I've got a client and he works in the film industry and loves nature, lives near mountains, loves nature, fantastic. And we've realized that if he doesn't, and I hold him accountable to make sure he spends at least 2 hours in nature a week. If he doesn't do it, the performance, he's grouchy at work, it gets grouchy. He hasn't got all the patience with the clients that he needs to have. And when he has the patience, he spends more time with them. Guess what? He gets more deals, he gets more business. He does. So he's happier. I mean, he sends me photographs of, walking and hiking in the mountains, and it is breathtaking. And he notices the difference. So I said, doesn't matter how busy you are, you've got to do it. And I'll ask him, what did you do the weekend? Did you go out? And if not, why not? Why did you not do that? We've had this discussion before, So he will do it. And he goes out there and the performance is different. So he's in his flow when he's hiking. Okay. For someone else, for me, that wouldn't really do it for me. But, it's not about what's important to me. It's about what's important to the individual. What's your flow? And you can feel it and you can know about it. Anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I do. I was thinking about my classroom and the flow, and as a teacher, I always know when the classroom's flowing and when it's not, because the kids are half of them are spaced, like even the kids that are always focused and doing a good job are not focused. Like that's when I know. And it always shifts and changes. And sometimes it has nothing to do with me. It just has something to do with what they're busy focusing on outside of school, or they're excited about the weekend or whatever it is. But last week I noticed, I looked across my classroom and I had kids that were just like, and I had kids that were like this, like vibrating, because it's almost the end of the school year. And they said, just like, look across the classroom, like take a minute and look across the classroom. Do you know who is really like exhausted and ready to fall asleep right now? And they all raised their hand. And then I said, do you know who's vibrating and like should go and run a marathon right now? And they're like, yeah, they all raised their hand. And then I talked to them about how we need to bring that energy back so that we're like can all function in the same room, because we were at two complete extremes and it was like not working for anyone. And so I said, there's only like 40 minutes left of the day. This is what we need to do. Can we somehow bring it back? And then I thought, and then they did. They worked extremely well just by bringing that awareness to them. And then the next day, I was like, we were having our circle at the end of the day, and I had all these kids be like, it's too noisy. Like some of them say, like, because we talk at the end of the week about what was good, what we're struggling with, just at the end of the day, or what we're excited about for the weekend. And I had a couple kids say that they're really tired of the noise, and a couple kids say, I really love the noise, like I love the energy. And then I was like, this is the difference between introverts and extroverts. And I talked to the kids about what an introvert was and what an extrovert was, and how we're generally on some sort of scale between the two extremes. And then that just got them like really thinking about what it is that they flow with. Because if you're an introvert, your flow is going to be very different than an extrovert. An extrovert's going to love to go to big parties and be busy and go to events. Like we have Stampede coming up in Calgary, and I am not a fan of Stampede. I know people absolutely love it. That going to just driving down there gives me anxiety because I cannot handle crowds. I would way rather go out to the mountains and have a nice walk in the forest, and that resets me, that energizes me. Whereas other people, going to those big events energizes them. That exhausts me. So our flows are going to be different, and that's completely okay. And sometimes I do have to push myself and go to those events. But most of the time, if I really want to reset and be in my flow and then have the patience for the kids and I have to go spend my time in nature. And I started talking with the children about this, about what is it that resets you. And so I talked about too, like some of us need to go home right after school and just have quiet time for like half an hour just to reset. And some of us need to go home from school and go for a bike ride and go to hockey practice and go to this and do, just because they've got so much energy built up that helps them thrive. And so it really is about knowing who you are, because when you know who you are, that's when your flow is going to get better. Because if an introvert has to go and be busy, busy, busy after work, they're not going to be flowing. They're going to be exhausted. Whereas if an extrovert has to go home and then just be like, after school or work, that's not going to help them flow. So it really is knowing who you are and knowing what your body needs and what your mind needs, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. What helps Grant flow isn't going to help me flow. What helps Nick's flow isn't going to, maybe knowing parts of it, but we're each going to have our own unique individual flow.
Absolutely. That's a key thing. So, Nomsa?
Yeah, I was saying I actually agree with Amanda. You have to basically you have to do something that makes you happy, something that basically, if it is the skills have to balance your energy as well, because if you put something that is too challenging, then it's gonna put you off. So no, basically you have to, not something easy. Just challenge yourself to do something that you've never done before. Like Amanda, you were saying that we're all different. It's like myself, there are some things like music. Music resets me. I love listening to music, and I love dancing as well. So I put music on and I just dance my way out, basically. Or if I go, let's say if I go to a party, some people wait until they get drunk and then they go on stage and dance. So if I go to a party and they play music that I love, I don't really mind who is watching me because I can move. So I just go and reset myself and it just enjoy. I get in the moment of enjoying music. So my family on my side and my spouse's side, they know that basically I don't really care what people think of me. I just go on stage and just drift away and find that peace within me. And when I sit down, I sit down, and that's what makes me happy. And I work really, really hard as well, but I'm not a parent that will finish work and start taking children into different activities. So what I do is I find the schools that do activities within the school. So mostly everything my children, they have to do it within the school, and then we do other, like if I say dance school, it has to be a dance that school that does all different dances, so they can go in, maybe be there for 1 hour or 2 hours. That's fine. My daughter goes Saturday all day, theater, dancing all day. We drop her off. She goes by herself now. She's 15. So my other one, she now goes for 2 hours. She goes on Thursday and then Saturdays. So I swimming. Why would I pay for swimming if I have good swimmers? So my spouse is a good swimmer, so you're gonna teach the kids. If they love swimming, you're gonna teach them. I'm not gonna drive them around and do all these things. It's just finding the things that you love, and my children, they know. I always tell them that if you love something and you tell me you love it, and if I see you on stage and you're loving it, just enjoy it. And it helps my daughter. It helped my daughter once, because sometimes when people go to competition, they don't do like it's like dancing. They do it because they are competing. So I said to my daughter, if you love something, even if when you are injured, you would do it. Even if you're crying, you would do it, because the feelings, when you go on stage, you put all the feelings and come on top. So one day we forgot the music, a big performance, and then she goes on stage and they play the music is wrong. And she went, don't worry, I know the dance by heart. So I can do it if you allow me. So they basically, the judges, there was one judge from Doctor Who, and he was like, he stood up and said, do you guys agree that we should let her dance? And everyone was like, yes. She danced so beautifully without music, because I taught her to do that. I taught her, when you love something, it has to be inside. So she danced and danced until the end of the dance. And when she's finished, and the guy went and congratulated her, but she was first, but they penalized her because she didn't have the music, so she came second. And I said to her, when you're doing something, don't do it because you're competing. Like myself, I have competitors, matchmaking competitors, but when I do something, I do something because I love it. If you listen to me talking to clients, and I'm like, I laugh sometimes when my clients are so frustrated, and I'll just laugh, and they're like, what? And I'm like, you're just making me laugh. And then they're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't be doing that, should I? And you find them, they're correcting themselves. When you're doing something, you're working with somebody, you're making them laugh, and you show interest, that actually I'm interested in you, and I'm interested in holding you through dark times until the end. That is love. Is loving what you do. Like Amanda, every time when I hear you describing how you work with the children, it's like, this is the woman that I love her to be in the class with my children, because you are so passionate about what you do, and you really, really love your work as a teacher. And that's what kind of teachers we need, because we want our children to enjoy the subject. I was talking to other girls the other day, my daughter's children's friends. They were like, we don't like this subject. So I was like, what made you don't like the subject? And they were like, did it make sense? So I said, don't you think you basically, you don't like the subject because of the teacher? And they're like, yeah, sometimes some teachers are annoying. So I was like, yeah. So I was like, when your mind makes up its mind that I don't like this, sometimes it's normally because of the teacher, but you don't have to be judgmental. Know that we're different, and just walk in with a positive attitude. And thank you, Amanda, for being who you are, because we need these kind of teachers in this world that put it all their work into our children. And just because when you speak, you don't talk about like it has to be a rule. You talk about it's fun. Teaching for you, you make it fun. So thank you for that. Anyone who wants to go? Nick?
Yeah, I think that's super important that we just respect other people's what they're good at and just allow them. And I think that's best case scenario when someone like Amanda's in the classroom and that's their happy place. That's best case scenario for her, best case scenario for those kids in that classroom, and everybody wins. So I think that's, yeah, super important.
Great. That's a great point. You know, I think it comes a lot when finding people's flow is so important when you're building teams, any team, sports team, business team, any kind of team. Finding people's flow is really important rather than saying shoehorning people into things. The worst thing you can do, if you select people and see what lights them up, that's the thing, because then you got people in flow. And I remember, you know, people can put you in and out of flow as well. We all know, if you can imagine now, there's certain people you know who walk into the room and you go, it's great to see them, and their faces light up. And there's other people when people go, those people, you know what? It doesn't make those people good or bad people. It just means it's not quite the right match. Okay. Rather like a marriage, like anything, some people just really complement each other. Some don't. I will share a story that I share with some people, and I've never done it so widely before. I was speaking at a conference in Las Vegas a few years ago. And it's interesting, this, because, yeah, the conference was busy. Yeah, you spend a lot of time, you're at the conference inside a hotel, and and it's long nights, and then you're socializing of an evening in them, occasionally going on, blah, blah, blah. After that, I stayed for a few days and just became a tourist for a few days. And the first day, pretty worn out from a long and it was a long conference. Like, we were looking at classes before and after, about 9 days. Right, so pretty long. And I came out the next day, had my shorts on, and went out as a tourist. And I walked out, and I walked along. If anybody knows Las Vegas, I'm walking along the strip, and at the bottom end, well, depends which end you're looking at, there's a Hershey's shop, right? Hershey's chocolate. I'm not a lover of chocolate. I have some chocolate, but I remember feeling my energy was a little bit low, right? Because I'd been at the conference. I was still pretty drained. It was a hot day, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to get a bar of chocolate, and that's it. A bar, a bar of chocolate, and now this bar was in a plastic bag, it was shopping bag, yeah. And I'm in Las Vegas, right? So it's pretty warm outside, as you can imagine, right? So I've got this bar of chocolate in the bag. Something I do, I love rock music. I used to be in a rock band. And so most cities I'll go to Hard Rock Cafe. All right. It's just something I do. I look at the memorabilia. I have a meal there, and that's it. And I'm done. Right? And that's it. And I get my little fix of music. This is what happened. So I've got this bar of Hershey's chocolate in the bag. I walk into Hard Rock Cafe. I sit down. I order. I ask, how long would the meal be? I say, about 15, 20 minutes. I say, that's fine. Keep the seat for me. There's my drink. Keep your seat. I'm just going to have a walk around and look at the memorabilia. So they said, okay. So they did. I walked around, started looking at the memorabilia. I went into a little ante-room, a little outside room, so think of it like a gallery, an art gallery in there. And there's music playing. And the music that played was the Rolling Stones. I had just been to see the Rolling Stones. I've seen them a few times. I saw them a couple of months before in London. Hearing this music brought back happy memories. And I'm looking at the memorabilia. I walk around. Suddenly, I see a photograph from the very early 70s. It's a picture of John Lennon with Yoko Ono. They're at a dinner table in a restaurant, and their heads are together, and you could see the deep in conversation. At this point, I looked at this photo, and I do this sometimes if I stare at them, and I looked at it, and I thought, I wonder what they're talking about. And then I thought, this is beyond music, because they started a movement. Now, I'm in Las Vegas, which is not the most spiritual place on earth. I'm in Las Vegas in the Hard Rock Cafe, look at this photograph, and I'm like, that's it. That's what's been rolling around in my mind for a few months, and I've not quite put my finger on it. There's something that I'm thinking there's a direction I want to be going in. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, John Lennon, great musician, Yoko Ono was an artist. They were both vehicles. They were both vehicles, I mean art and music, vehicles for creating a message. Their joint message happened to be peace. That was the movement that they were trying to create. And I thought, they're not talking about music or art, probably. They're talking about creating that movement. Now, I don't know if they were in that photograph, but that's what came to me. When I looked at them, the most amazing thing then happened. I felt light. I felt kind of weightless. And suddenly I felt something brushing. So I told you I was wearing shorts, right? And I could feel something brushing against my leg, as if a dog or a cat had just brushed past your leg. That feeling. And I looked down, and I was carrying the Hershey's bar of chocolate in a carrier bag. So it was falling straight by my leg like this. What was touching my leg was this bag. It curved in and stuck to my leg at an angle like that. It was the energy, the flow state that I was in, had given off some sort of electricity, and it stuck to my leg, and it wasn't coming off. And I looked down, and I was like, oh my God. And then suddenly I felt like I transcended. I felt like I lifted about this far off the ground. I hadn't, but I felt like I was lifted. And I looked at that photograph, and I thought, if that's not a sign to create a movement, I don't know what is. And that's when I felt I was in my flow. That's a story I don't tell very many people. I have told it before, but not very many people. But just thinking today about talking about when do you know if you're in flow? Well, you may not get that, but you know you're on a roll. And I do this sometimes when I'm speaking about a subject. I'm not thinking ahead. I'm not behind my eyes. I'm in front of it's just happening. And it's just rolling. And sometimes you can know that you're connecting with people and you're getting your message out there. And then I think, here I go. I'm in my flow. So look out for signs like that put you in your flow, and look out for signs like that pull you out of your flow. Okay? That's what I wanted to share. Nomsa, Nick, Amanda, have you ever experienced anything like that, or any thoughts around that?
Yeah, Grant, that's an amazing story. I love that. And you can't make stuff like that up, right? Like, that was a real thing for you. Like, and for it to just happen in that moment, for that bag to attach to your leg, like, it's so cool. Like, there's so much going on around us we're all just energy, and everything is all connected and everything. And it's so cool to hear stories like that. And then for someone like yourself to have that awareness that, oh, this is a sign that I need to start a movement. And it's just so cool. Yeah. And then just to look kind of a little bit almost beyond that, and just while we're talking about flow, and I think one of the necessary requirements is basically for you to transcend your ego in a way. And so I think what's happening is your mind can only process so much information at a time, right? And I think when we're in these flow states, whatever it is, whether it's looking at a photograph, whether it's riding a motorcycle, whatever, I think what happens is your mind is at capacity because of a task that you're involved in. And so there's no room for all those negative thoughts, those limiting beliefs, all the things, the chatter that constantly goes on in our mind. There's no room for that, because you need to be in the moment to be focusing on the task at hand. And when all those thoughts and all those beliefs and your ego and everything drop down because there's no room for them, that's when we get into that flow state. And it's something, it's when you're in it, there's no denying it. And it's just such a cool thing to have awareness around it. And then, get a sign like what you got, or even just get the message like, okay, I need to make a conscious effort to get into this state because it helps me. And it's so interesting too. And Grant, you brought this up earlier, that your friend who needs to be out in nature, how sometimes he doesn't, and then it negatively affects him. And it's so interesting to me. And I do the same thing, as I know all the things that get me into flow and that light me up and that really help me. And I, a lot of times, don't do them. And it's such a weird thing to know it and then to not actively go out and do it. It's just interesting psychology there, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah.
I really like what
Amanda?
you said about where you know the things that you have to do, and then sometimes you don't do them, and then and then you recognize it later, and that's essentially like the end of the school year for teachers is like so chaotic. And the last 2 Saturdays, I've been so sick that I couldn't get off the couch because I've just been doing too much and then not doing the things that I know I need, like going to yoga and going for getting exercise and spending some time in nature and meditating. And so then I get to Friday, I get to yoga, I do a hips and hamstrings class, all the toxins from my hips come through my whole body. And then I'm like, I can't even function on Saturday. I literally threw up on Saturday because I've been so busy trying to do all of these things and get everything done. I'm not doing the things that I know my body needs. And so then if you don't do them, then your body will literally shut down, because disease is really dis and then ease. And I'm conscious of it. It's knocked me on my butt 2 weeks in a row. And so I this week I'm like, okay, I'm going to stretch every single day. I'm going to make sure I get some exercise every single day. I'm going to make sure I spend some time outside. And I already know this week that on this Saturday I won't get sick. And it's only Wednesday. But it's because I was like, okay, this happened 2 weeks in a row. I know I'm out of flow, and I have a massage booked today, and all of the things that I know that I need to do to make sure that my body doesn't shut down on me. Because if I'm holding all that in and I'm not doing the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm healthy, then your body's just going to be like, nope, you need to stop and reset. And when you become conscious of that, you'll start to recognize those patterns. When do you get sick? When do you get sick? It's always when you're not doing all of the things you need to do to take care of yourself, right? When do you get completely exhausted? It's when you're not doing those things that you know you need to do to that reset you. And so even like going to an energy healer or something like that, before I never understood any of these things. And then I started to go to energy healers. And if your energy is blocked in your chakras, then it would be like, this is why this is showing up in your life. This is what, and it just like blew my mind. It blew my mind that they would be able to tell me something. And I'd be like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like your heart chakra blocked. This is why this, like, is there something like this happening in your life? And I'd be like, yep. And then once they would clear those chakras and clear my energy, I would just be able to walk out into the world and flow so much better. And so I think we really need to sometimes look at that Eastern medicine piece of looking at ourselves as a whole and looking at our bodies as Nick said, all being energy, and how that energy interacts with other things. And when it's not flowing the way it's supposed to be, then we're going to end up with roadblocks, and we're going to end up with things that are challenging to us, because as we continuously clear those blocks, the energy should flow, and then things should be a lot easier, and not that thing that Nick said, where it's that perfect balance, not where it's too easy and not where it's too challenging, just that perfect balance that he was talking about earlier, I think is so important.
That's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, how do you unblocking energy is a great point. And I think that's brilliant what you say there, Amanda, because there are so many ways to approach it. And I'm sure all of us here are aware of that dis-ease. You are at dis-ease with something that's going on in your life, whether it be a relationship or a job. Now, it doesn't mean to say that the first time you get a slight little hiccup, I'm going to leave the job. Every life there's little hiccups and things. That's normal life. But it's when it becomes persistent, when it's not showing signs of going away, that's when you think, I need to pay attention and change something. That's right. And I think here's the thing: if you can start to get in flow with life, you produce more, you get more fulfillment, you tend to make money and more people. Which comes back to what I say I help people do, which is essentially help them make more money in less time, have less stress, but more fun and fulfillment. And this is part of the way they achieve it. Okay, it's not just like, oh, go do this, do that, do that. Yes, it does involve that, but it's also about, it's not me dictating to people when I coach, because I can tell people what to do. I won't do it. Because if it's against their flow, they're not going to do it. So it's a waste of time. So if you work on this first, you get to understand, and this is something I work on a lot, understand the individual in front of you. I want to know what's happened in their life, how they came to be here today, what's gone on in their life, what's been a pivotal moment, what's formulated them to become the person they are today. It will tell you an awful lot about the challenges they're facing now, and then how I can unblock those challenges to get them the result they want. Okay, so yes, it's coaching to build their business, but how you achieve that isn't just the business functions. It is that, but it's much more than that. It's understanding how to operate the person. So rather than me saying, oh, I did this and this worked for me, well, that would be me mentoring them. And some clients want that. They want me to mentor. I've done this. You want to achieve something similar, do X, Y, and Z. Coaching is different. That's drawing it out of people. That's helping them. You may be leading breadcrumbs down the trail so that they see them and arrive at the treasure, and the treasure is always them. Once they get there, they realize how it works in their style while still being them. Whatever people were given, they reject. Whatever people discover, they embrace. So I help them discover their flow, what works inside of them, and then they embrace it, then they keep it, then they're in their flow, then they achieve. And that's the way I like to work with people, because I think it's a much smoother journey. And it's rather like goals. Right? Most people are motivated by fear. We run from a burning building. We run very fast from a burning, but we're motivated by fear. Yet we run towards what? Safety. So if you can be motivated by love, and what I mean love is doing something you love, it's a much smoother journey than thinking, for example, oh my God, I don't want to be broke. I don't want to be broke. Because then you're motivated by fear. Okay, so if you can find what you ultimately want and don't just say, oh, I want $1 million. Because like, why? What do you want $1 million for? You know, what is it you want to do with that $1 million? Just sit there and count
I want
it.
$1
Oh
million
no, I want
and I can start my own school.
You and I start your school. We'll have the conversation. Right?
Get me that $1 million so I can start my own school.
So now I know what Amanda wants. So this is a towards goal, right? It's not like, oh my God, I hate the school, I want to leave the school. And I'm not saying you do hate the school. I'm sure you love the school you're at, but you're towards what you want to achieve, which is a school. And then I'll dig into, well, why? Why is that? I'll be a bit provocative and be a devil's advocate. Why? What's so special about having your own school? And then I'll get it out of you. And then you're like, because of this and that and that. And like, there we go. And I'll start seeing what's you in your flow. This is what's lighting you up. And I want to know what's behind that. You know, most people start a business because they hate the boss and they run from their business. So they're running from fear. And people say you should work towards love. You know what? It's great, but I think it's like a car. You get in a car, you've got your engine, but then you've got that key. Well, we don't really these days, but you still have a key, turn the ignition. The ignition is the starter. It starts it off. And I think fear, given the fact that 80% are motivated by fear, it's a great starter. It's the ignition key. It helps you run from that burning building. Very useful. But I don't want to keep them in fear. I want to quickly get them out of danger and direct them towards what they love. And that way, it's a much smoother journey, fulfillment, you rest easier at night, and you're nicer to other people. And when you're nicer to other people, guess what? They're nicer to you. So finding the flow, I think, is really, really important for yourself, your family, your work colleagues, and all your clients, and everyone you'll come into contact with. It's a much smoother journey of life. That's what I wanted to say. Nomsa, Nick, Amanda, what are you thinking?
Okay, thank you so much, guys. Grant, I love your story. That was an amazing story. I'd love to hear more about it. And Nick, thank you so much for actually reminding us that sometimes we know what we need to do and we forget to do it. We ignore it anyway. We don't forget we do. I set my alarm. If it's time for prayer, it's time for prayer. If it's time for meditation, it's time for meditation. So that's how I remind myself, basically, and remind the consequences of not meditating, the stress, basically. So I do that. Any words of encouragement, Amanda, before you leave, please, before we leave?
I think if you want to, if there's things in your life that aren't working out and you feel like you're really stuck, then it's really important to start to be conscious of those things, like Nick said and like Grant said, about what it is that's blocking you from finding your flow, whether it's even in your hobbies, and making sure you get out and you do those hobbies and you have that time, just to like enjoy life, because we're really here to like love what we do and love the things that we're doing and not go to a job that we hate. We're here to embrace what we do, and to, we only have one life to live, right? So if we're struggling with all these different things, like what is it that's causing those struggles? What is it that's blocking us from moving forward? What are your goals, and how can you get there? And if you're out of flow, what little things each day can you do to get yourself back into flow? Like Nomza said, set alarms for when you need to go and pray or meditate, or make sure that you get out and exercise, or make whatever it is, make sure that you're doing those things, because when all the things pile up, like like it does for me at the end of the school year, if you don't make sure that you're taking care of yourself, then your body's just going to shut down and be in disease. And we really, really need to, when we become conscious of it, you'll be amazed at how often you'll catch yourself and then get back on track right away. And that's when you really know that you're starting to get in your flow, because every time that things aren't going smoothly, you'll be able to consciously be like, okay, this isn't going smoothly, what can I do to reset? And then you'll just get out of those funks so much faster.
Brilliant. Love that.
Words of encouragement, Grant. Thank you so much, Amanda. Before we leave.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Words of encouragement is, as always, I say, take a few moments a day to tune in with yourself, because I hear all the time people are busy, 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 busy. I get you that you're busy, but take a few moments to yourself. Even if you just need to leave the room, go to the bathroom, whatever, I don't know, you're going to find 3 minutes. 3 minutes for yourself. Tune in, meditate, do what you need to do, play that song which gets you in flow, whatever it is. Do that thing, spend 3 minutes with yourself every day and ask yourself, who am I? Where am I on my journey in life? What do I want to do? How can I express myself? What would I do that could get me more in flow? If you ask yourself that every day, and I mean every day, the answer will start to come towards you, and you'll start going towards the things you love, and you'll start to become in flow. If I can help you more with that, reach out to me, of course, and I can help you much more if we have more time together. But that's a quick tip that will start to give you an indication of where you need to be. You may not be there, but at least getting clarity on where you want to be is the first step towards achieving flow. Nomsa.
To you, Nick. Words of encouragement, please.
Great. Thanks, guys. I just say the best moments in life are generally not those ones where we're relaxed and everything's just going, according to plan. I'd say the best moments are where we're stretched, either mentally or physically, and pushed towards basically accomplishing something that's worthwhile or meaningful to us. And I would just say basically to embrace those moments that are challenging and that are pushing you. I think that's where a lot of medicine can be found in our day-to-day lives and in, bigger picture things as well. And I just say for myself, I mean, the name of my clothing company is Flow State Designs, and I just think it's so important to A, recognize where your flow states are, and then number two or B is to get into them and make that a priority.
I think I've just had a business idea.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nick. And also, action awareness to what Nick has just said is very, very important to be in the zone, be in that moment as well, and concentrate at what is in front of you, and be in the moment. Have control, take control of the situation, whatever that might be, is very, very important. And we are here at Ngozi Talk Shows Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. UK time. And if you want to get in touch with Nick, you can follow him on his social media. Get in touch with him at Ngozi Talk Shows, or Amanda or Grant. You know what they do. So if you want to connect with one of our coaches, please do. And to live with grace. And God bless. YouTube subscribers, family, please subscribe to our channel. And God bless. Okay, Restream is not responding to me.